See, my apologies. I just tried to stream. Yay. I had to shut it down. Weird technical stuff just kind of slammed me from the sides. I'm doing a little update here because I feel obliged. I know my channel is called Tarot Illumination, but you know I have a very strong, let's say, preponderance for the astrology. I don't feel safe or comfortable doing a tarot reading the way that I would normally like to do now, the way I did the old days. I would have done like a heart spread for the soul journey, for like a for humanity, that kind of thing. So it's the same with the astrology. So I'm kind of going to do something a little bit, let's say, edited. Okay. Anyway, first things first. You've probably heard this already. Just within the last hour, that famous balloon from Montana just got shot down over the Carolinas. Finally, Uncle Joe decided, I got to do something about this. And I'll have to look at that a little bit. I don't know how to get to my text at the same time, necessary truths. But anyway, there's another balloon. Thank you, necessary. Another balloon spotted over Kansas. I mean, this has to be the most hilarious, bizarre news clip. It's gone worldwide, global, viral within hours from the day or two ago when it actually first started. We're already learning now that this has been going on for a long time. It's nothing new. It's just that right now makes you scratch your head. Is it a coincidence that this bizarre, highly absorbing story, which is causing massive amounts of eyeballs to look over here, is happening at the same time that massive revelations are coming out about a certain crime family over here, including the young lad Hunter, okay? It's not a balloon. Whoa, okay. Including Hunter, who's actually openly admitted now that, yes, the laptop is his. Yeah, he's got nowhere to hide. Anyway, the theme of this little video, it's about the full moon. The sun is in Aquarius. Saturn is in Aquarius. In a few hours, we're going to have the full exact opposition with the moon opposing the sun and then eventually Saturn. And so, from my perspective, as always an aspiring astrologer, in Western style, simplified for digestive purposes, uh, the theme for me is the nodal axis for the United States. The United States is born with the Aquarius South Node. I did a video about that, I think, the other day. North Node in Leo. So, as almost always happens with stories regarding the journey, the mission, the experience of the North Node for you, the individual, the same kind of storylines apply for nations, countries, humanity. Okay? Hello, Path. Good to see you. Are you looking up in the sky right now? It already flew over Kentucky, so I don't think you've got a problem. Necessary truth, it's way south of you, so you don't have a problem. But who knows where this Kansas balloon is going to go? Oh, man. So I guess it's not astonishing to me that the United States is showing all the classic signs of a single individual. Let's say you are an individual and you're born with exactly the same astrological, let's say, sacred geometry, the sacred makeup of the United States, 4th of July, 1776. Of course, you wouldn't be alive today, but there might be reincarnations. Would that be you? Anyway, you would have a Leo North Node. And you're in a traditional nodal axis. Your life mission would be like a kind of a journey that would take you forward towards the Leo North Node so you could evolve and grow out of your Aquarius South Node. Your Aquarius South Node would give you a tendency to be automatically defaulting towards the community, towards having these overly exaggerated efforts and behaviors towards, let's say, humanitarian behavior. Now, does that ring any bells with you? Da-ding, da-ding, da-ding. Humanitarian behavior. Look at the United States. We are classic Aquarius South Node, okay? We're constantly going on about saving the world, saving humanity, and trying to be a like like a misguided do-gooder. Okay, it looked like America, the world police, that kind of thing. We're here to save the world. It's insane. We've already, with the South Node, we've outgrown that. The United States has outgrown the Aquarius South Node vibe, and its journey is to migrate in a never-ending, advancing and refining and purifying journey towards the North Node, Leo. And so that seems very contrarian, because we're in America, we send billions, if not trillions, overseas to save everybody. One of the main themes, of course, with American politics, that's how you get elected, is vote for me and I will save you. Now, we've become so corrupted here that that is actually the modus operandi of how this country works. And look where it's taken us today. To me, it's almost, it's laughable, it's embarrassing, considering the amount of blood and treasure and war that went into securing the United States officially back on the 4th of July, 1776, okay? And then ratified with the Bill of Rights, 17, whatever it was, I think 87, with the Constitution as we know it today. And of course, with the journey of Pluto, 250 years, we've now reached the point of complete and utter collapse and decay at the end of the Pluto cycle. It's just like the end of a Saturn cycle or a Jupiter cycle or a cycle where everything has evolved as much as it can during that one cycle, and what's left at the 29th degree is anything and everything that didn't make it. And so that's happening to the United States right now. It's at a point of desperation. We're hovering around 27, 28, 29 degrees. We've been doing it since January 2020, and it's going to go on pretty much to the end of 2024. So it's a 4-year period of grinding over these very sensitive degree points of the final implosion, the death cycle of the complete Pluto journey. And that's in Capricorn. So at the same time that that's happening, the Leo Aquarius North Node is being emphasized at this very moment. And I made some notes earlier. I was being up since really early, scanning a lot of stuff out there and trying to piece it all together. And first thing that struck me is that it's astonishing to me how poorly America is living up to its Leo North Node mission, its actual duty, its mission, its journey. Just as let's say I was giving you a private consultation and there was something about your nodal axis that really stuck out, and we had to focus on that in your reading, okay? A lot of professional astrologers will attest to the validity and the importance of the North Node, okay? It's very, very important in anybody's astrology chart. Now, you also know that when I do private readings, I weave it in with deep tarot analysis as well. So for those of you who are already familiar, you know all this stuff already. So it's been a long journey. It's been about a 250-year journey, and look where we are today. It's almost embarrassing. Let's say our so-called enemies, in a way, we should be grateful for our enemies because they are the ones who are helping us to learn to grow out of our immaturity, our naivety, our our stupor, our coma of the South Node Aquarius. And we have to uh, start to do a better job of resonating the Leo North Node energy. Now, there's a certain character, he's very famous, very controversial, who I believe is highlighting the direction that we need to go, initials DJT, because he has very, very powerful Leo energy that is sitting right on top of the American Leo North Node. And the whole idea is like, wake up, America. You've got to grow up. You've got to head towards that shining example where we don't give it all away. What we do is pretty much we restore our original constitutional, our original dignity, and become a shining example of a Leo, of an Aquarian South Node in its essence. In other words, how can the United States best carry itself and present itself to humanity, to the world, for the next Pluto cycle, for the next 250 years? The best way to do that is to focus on the Leo North Node journey and make that the mission. So that would be us in America living by example without apologizing for our, I'm just going to be, it might sound very arrogant. Okay, I'm sorry if I hurt people's feelings, but for stop apologizing for our good fortune and our ability to be a strong guiding light, like a beacon of light. Think of the Leo light like a massive, massive lighthouse. There's someone out there right now who has a very strong Leo nature, and she is literally like a lighthouse, okay? Lighthouses are there to guide people, to save people, to protect people from what horrible things could happen when the lighthouse is not there, not working. Right now, the lighthouse of the United States is, okay? So it needs to be switched on again. It needs to be saved, salvaged, and relit. And the flame needs to be kept alive and heavily protected, okay? So people who don't like my views, they would say, oh, you're a nationalist. Oh, you're looking for a closed society. All you want to do is slap up borders and give the middle finger to everybody outside. Well, I believe that good fences make good neighbors. So we mind our own business, we take care of ourselves, and we focus on becoming as awesome as we can. And then when we have the spare, and we don't feel threatened or undermined by people people who want what we have, then we can give guidance. We don't give it away. We lead by example. And then then you can kind of like coach others to say, well, listen, if you want what we have, then do what we do. Now, caveat here, not every population has what we have. The United States is very, very blessed with staggering abundant natural resources. Okay, not every population has that. But either way, each population has to make the best of who they are, what they've got, and where they are in the circumstances. Another way that the United States could really live up to its promise is to, okay, I'm going to say it kind of discreetly, I hope, basically shut down the FED and stop creating massive globalized inflation and stop the crippling devaluing of our US dollar. Okay? Be proud of who we are, what we've got, enjoy the wealth, enjoy the abundance, recalibrate the United States to something that would resemble a classic North Node profile. Then, perhaps, Well, I wouldn't recommend it, but then you can go off and start telling the world how to live. I wouldn't do that. I think it's better just to live by example, okay? One of the most obvious, the most obvious examples is the Newsmax story. Everybody's heard that Newsmax has been shut down by AT&T DirecTV. Why? It's because it's like the one single remaining news source, literally, that honors and I would say respects we the people, the American people at the ground grassroots level. There's another one spelled FOX that has a similar profile, but it's on a much bigger scale and it is much more, I would say, mellowed out and perhaps compromised. Every now and again, the FOX people get into trouble with folks like Chucker, who is a bit of a lightning rod, who attracts a lot of, let's say, combative, hostile energy from people of opposing views. But someone's got to stand up for it. And the stronger that we, the people, get, the more and more that we are being censored. So here's an example. This just came out today. You might have heard of Project Veritas. It's a small, independent, truth-oriented news source. They just focus purely on facts and truth, and they enjoy outing the liars and the fraudsters, okay? And they can be very confrontational. And they are used to having, they are used to being suppressed and deleted. And anyway, the Project Veritas has now been threatened for deletion and blockage across multiple platforms. Why? Because they tell the truth. Some of these big platforms don't like it. So guess what happened? One of the top reporters, I think he might actually be one of the bosses over at Project Veritas, located in physical person the vice president for YT, the vice president of censorship and community guidelines, confronted him out in the open, in public, and started a very precise chain of questions. The sort of questions that made the vice president go, I can't talk to you. I can't talk to you. I can't talk to you. But the journalist has certain privileges, okay? We still have the First Amendment, and so the journalist kept at it. And at one point, the journalist accidentally grazed the jogging suit of the VP of Community Guidelines. And the VP said, "Don't touch me or I'll call the police." Ugh. Anyway, of course, the conversation led to nowhere, and Project Veritas recorded it all, and the VP just went off jogging away into the future, hopefully into oblivion. So it's getting very, very awkward. It's getting very, very awkward for the big tech, big media censors, okay? It's very awkward for me to even do this. I mean, I think it's, anyway. So, another thing that was very kind of embarrassing was the Let's Appease CHINA, because that is what Uncle Joe does. Uncle Joe is owned by CHINA leaders, okay? So he had to go along with this, but eventually the story became so embarrassing to the whole of the world, and especially Uncle Joe himself, that eventually he gave the okay, thumbs up, let's shoot it down. And so they shot down that balloon, which apparently is not just a balloon, and now they've got to deal with the second balloon. Politics is very, very weird. If NORAD, North American, whatever it is, defense systems, you know, it's that big circumventing defense system for the perimeters of the United States. If they were doing their job and permitted to do their job, they would have shot it down when the balloon entered airspace around Alaska, okay? Okay, I'm just going to rattle another bunch of things that really piss me off, about the redundant journey to the North Node. Remember, this is the very first Pluto cycle for the United States. So you could say that we're still very deep in a learning curve here because the United States, in some ways, is still very young as a human experiment because there's nothing else created or lived according to full open declaration the way things happen here in the United States. And there are a lot of countries in the world that are trying to emulate the Constitution and the structures and the benefits that we have here. But that's a problem if you happen to be a tyrant or a dictator or an oligarch or a plutocrat. That stuff is bad news for you. We've given away so much treasure, blood overseas that never really had to happen. It all happened because of certain, I would say, elites who wanted those wars, because it profits them at the expense of we the people. It's a long, long, long story. There's probably loads of books written about it. I'm not going to talk about it, but that's a lot of blood and treasure given away through classic South Node Aquarius, uh, we're going to save the world agendas. And for that to happen, you have to create an enemy. You got to have a boogeyman somewhere. Oh, it's them. Oh, it's the folks out there in the Middle East. Oh, God, it's those folks over there in Southeast Asia. Oh, we got to take them down. Oh. And now we've got this big thing going on in Eastern Europe. Okay, it's just another version of the same thing. It's pathetic. It's embarrassing. It's shameful. It's disgusting. Basically, wars that we don't need. Makes my blood boil. I think I just mentioned that Newsmax was deleted completely, and that's created another embarrassing uproar. So AT&T and DirecTV are being slammed right now by very, very angry customers. In other words, go woke, go broke. You know, I don't know what's going to actually happen because AT&T and DirecTV are so big. Maybe they just don't care. Just like, oh, we're just going to delete it anyway. We don't care if our stock price plummets. Well, maybe it'll be a good thing. We don't know. We're just going to be social engineers now. We're not going to be corporations. We're social engineers that work on behalf of the government, for the government, so that the government can look like it's not doing anything and we do all the dirty work. That's the agenda. Okay. What other things are we doing that is unacceptable with the Aquarius South Node? Well, one obvious example is inflation. Wholesale mass inflation that we're exporting across the whole world in such a way that through a very elaborate, beautifully constructed Ponzi scheme allows we the people, the citizens inside the United States to live this life that we live. But it's really like fake wealth. It's like Vladimir P was saying, you guys are out of your boxes because it's fake wealth. It's all built on funny money and debt, and it will implode, and that it is imploding right now. There are all sorts of stories through history. I've got two of these big fat history books now. It's the same pattern. It's the end of empires. It's the end of civilizations, end of populations, when the leaders become more and more greedy for power and control and money to the point where they don't really care anymore about you, the people. Now, the other big issues, there's one of them. It's about population, human population, and the, let's say, extreme abundance. I believe that that is a subject that can be dealt with responsibly if people literally choose to do so, but it requires very radical, open conversations about how are we going to do this, because humanity is actually becoming its own worst enemy right now. I mean, that we already know that, but it's becoming vivid. We just have to think about rats in a cage. Classic science experiments. Just look around you. Look what's happening across the earth. Look at the oceans. In particular, look at the oceans. It's bad news. Now, remember, here's a weird thing. China is born with, the way I'm going to say it, it's about the the birth of the leader thing, the initial C, initial P, folks, about 1945, and it puts Aquarius on the horizon with the moon in Aquarius. So that country is very, very fragile under the Aquarius energy, which is happening right now. And there's going to be even greater fragilities as Saturn moves into Pisces soon. Okay? So what's happening is I go to certain sources that I don't know how they're still on YouTube, frankly, but for some reason they are still alive on YouTube. One of them is fully demonetized and blocked, so you can only get snippets. But there's another one, I'll share with you the name if you're interested. But it gives you actual, real, live coverage of what's happening at the grassroots level in that country, CHINA, okay? I did put a couple links out on my new Twitter thing, and I put another link out on my new Truth Social thing. I don't know if I should put it on this channel, but the theme is that you have to understand that the leaders of CHINA are deliberately destroying their economy, their health. And there's a reason. It's because their whole economy is built on slave labor camps. Okay, it's very, very ugly, but that's the reality of it. And what's happened is over the last 40 years, the abundance inside the Chinese population has started to work its way up to the top till you get an actual establishment like a middle class and an upper class. And that is a very, very big problem for the leaders of that incredible country. I mean incredible in all sorts of ways, bad and good. Now, there's a similar theme that happened in the United States around the 60s and 70s. We became so successful at who we are and what we do that we had a very vibrant, active middle class, juicy middle class. We worked really hard for it and we earned it. Our money had real value. Okay? Things changed dramatically after 1971. You can see it on all the Fed charts and everything. So the leaders basically decided, you, the people, you've got too much money, too much power, too much control, too much ownership over your own rights. The Constitution is too good. It's not working for us, the leaders, whose main agenda right now is to milk you, farm you through the Fed and the IRS. Okay? So they had to create a new agenda to effectively destroy the United States. And they did it incrementally and very, very gently through basically what amounts to inflation. Just watch the charts. Of course, these pathways are difficult to talk about in a little short video like this, but you can see it very, very clearly, the projections over the long term. Like the purchasing power of the US dollar right now is like this compared to what it was for me when I was just a kid. I can remember it in my own lifetime. There's so many other things I could talk about, but they will get me into deep trouble, so I'm going to kind of leave it at that. What I'm hoping is that people understand. I'm trying to tell the story in such a way that people can understand the difference between the Aquarius South Node and the Leo North Node. A lot of the channels that I watch, they tell you to your face, do your own research. So if you're interested in the astrology, you can actually read up on this. I don't consider myself a teacher, but there are materials online where if you wanted to, you could, search Leo North Node, and it'll give you these little compressed storylines. Maybe even go to ChatGPT. Ask them, hey, ChatGPT, tell me something about the Leo North Node. Okay. So that's it. I'm just going to leave it at that for now. I don't want to take up all your time, all your day. I'm planning to do a little show tomorrow night, Sunday night, American time, Western time, Pacific time, 5 p.m. We're actually going to do some live tarot readings, okay? And that's going to be at the personal level. Meanwhile, for now, do your best, I guess. Try and find ways to heal yourself. Try and find ways to simply accept that which is, as opposed to constantly reacting. In other words, just be. Allow yourself to be an antenna. Allow yourself to be a transceiver. Allow yourself to receive truth, information, reality. Let it sink in, no matter how jarring it might feel. And then take your time, digest, and respond accordingly. That's an example of good energy management. That's my recommendation for today, for now. Anyway, number one, you're number one. Love thyself, okay? I'm going to stop this video now. Toodaloo. How do I press the stop button? There it is. Yeah, I sure want to stop. Okay, bye-bye. See you guys soon.